Hey everybody, I'm Philip.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are Pajamas. And it is Justin's birthday today. And for his birthday, in addition to getting a present and a yummy dinner and all that good stuff and some yummy coffee, I told Justin he could pick any movie that he wanted. Any movie at all. And we would watch it for a reaction and review video. So he chose The Vigil. I think this is also one that TJ mentioned to me some time ago. I like to go into things as blind as possible.
And I especially chose it because I wanted it to be something that neither of us have ever seen before.
Oh, okay. Cool. So it'll be a surprise to both of us. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into this and see what happens. All right, it's Blumhouse. They are known for jump scares.
And I don't know, I was just like, drei Minuten Kopf.
I was hitting on you.
Ah, dat heeft mij gezegd.
Yeah, but this guy, he looked like a person on TV looks like. There were some things they were right to keep us from, no?
Yeah, like what? De alte grobe gooi met de ekkelige Zeine.
Shaker of the gas. Yeah.
So, this won't be normal.
And a big part of that is letting go. Letting go of the pain.
Text me tomorrow and then we'll just take it from there, yeah?
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Bye.
Okay. Oh, good.
It's okay. All right.
Sorry, I'm still learning the rules.
It's okay. We all are. It's good. All right. Bye.
Gegaan aan hem, me ook de laatste minuut, maar ik iemand, ik dacht dat was gaan zeggen voor hem.
200? I'll do it for 5.
Ja, niet.
Together, it's маленький мальчик.
What did he see? A spider. Okay.
You sign it, Phil?
Today.
Neshama and Chaya, and finally to the Yechidah, the direct link to Hashem.
Dr. Colbert, can you hold on for 1 second, please?
Hello?
Yakov, hi, it's Dr. Kohlberg. Look, I just got your message, and I'm sorry it's taken me a little bit to call you back. I hope everything's all right.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Thank you. Wait a minute.
Let him go! Let him go!
All right, so we just finished The Vigil. It was indeed the movie that TJ recommended to me that we watch. I'm looking at this from a horror fan perspective, and you have kind of a multi-layered perspective on this one, since it's dealing with a lifestyle and focus that I'm only familiar with through you. So, what were your thoughts?
It was all right.
Okay. What did you like about it?
Well, it was refreshing to see the notion of something made in the West about something demonic, but through a different cultural lens.
Yeah, because usually it's Christianity or Catholicism that we see it through the point of view from.
And if it's highly ritualized, then there's Latin being chanted in the background somewhere.
Right, yeah. The usual tropes you get with, demonic type movies filtered through, as you said, that lens.
Which basically is someone trying to think that they can do The Exorcist better.
Which this did kind of turn into towards the end there. Kind of turned into the Jewish exorcist. I wrote that down, like Jewish exorcism.
Yes, it did seem a bit like that. How I saw it was, it was very similar to like how the Babadook had the thing that was attacking her was inside.
Right.
And in this sense, he appears to be, well, it did seem like he was basically trying to exorcise the house from the magic that was following him.
Right.
But it also appeared that the real demon was his inner demon, which is why, for example, when he walked up to it with a candle, it turned into an image of himself.
Right.
This part of his past, he was not able to forgive himself. And over time, it is scratching and scratching.
Right.
Taking more and more away from him. That's how I see it, that the magic this whole time that he should have been worried about was the one that was already inside of him. His inner turmoil, his anguish, being personified in the form of...
Yeah, but if we're taking this literally, what the Mazik was doing was assimilating itself to its new face, because its old one had died, and Yakov had been in the house for too long. So it was already molding itself to him. That's how I saw it.
Being able to look into his past, he was able to feed off of his anguish to make himself, I suppose for lack of a better term, something to nourish itself with.
Okay. What didn't you like about it?
There were times when it seemed slow.
Okay.
That it seemed like there were long pauses that didn't necessarily need to be there.
Can you think of an example?
For example, when he was sitting on the chair, and some of the things that he heard and said, some of that could have been at a faster pace.
Ah, okay.
Or there could have been much more of a divulgence into Ruben's life, even more than what it showed. I really wanted to know more about him.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think they could have explored the family dynamic with the wife and the kids that she sent away.
Yes, that is something that I really wanted it to go into, but it seems that that's still a mystery.
I liked the idea of melding, as we talked about already, the Jewish faith and the customs with horror. I didn't know what a shomer was. I didn't know that. I was brought up Baptist, so that's the indoctrination that I had growing up.
And it's a very unique way, because the way that I understood it was that the body is to not be left alone out of respect.
Mm-hmm.
That one is not neglecting someone simply because the person is dead. But with this, clearly, the Hasidic tradition is much more into mysticism, so it would very likely have something like that. That it would have specifically, not simply a demon, but specifically one that is of a more destructive sense, the Mazik.
It did make me think, because we've talked before about how I potentially have something that's cursed me.
Mm-hmm.
Like why after over a decade I inexplicably will not heal from the stuff that I went through in the car accident. Well, car accidents. It sounds very similar to discussions we've had about if there's something attached to me. And I've always joked that whatever is attached to me is right back here. In the back of my head.
Hmm.
So that kind of resonated with me in that way. I was like, what if I have a Mazik? That would
be very unfortunate.
Yeah, I can't burn its face off. That sucks.
Yes, that was new to me. I was not aware of any sort of burning of the face.
Some other stuff I liked. The lighting was superb.
Yes.
The cinematography and lighting were really nice. There were some shots that were just beautiful. Really good use of that wide open aperture. Really good use of that. The camera they used was really good because it wasn't grainy. It wasn't, even in the dark. And we were watching, on a computer with some lights, so we weren't in the dark to have it pop more. I could still see what was going on in the dark scenes. So other than the really interesting perspective, from a technical standpoint, my favorite part was the lighting and the cinematography. And just you could tell each shot was set up with purpose. It wasn't just like, walk through this room now. It was like, now you're going to sit here. We're going to light you like this. Now you're going to move in here. We're going to light you like... There were so many different lighting concepts going on that as someone that likes lighting a lot, I really appreciated. Main actor did a great job. Did a great job of playing like this broken, tortured soul. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really well done. Really well done in his part. Like they cast him perfectly, I think, for the role. As for where it lost me, I didn't mind the pacing. I didn't think they were slow. I thought it was just... I thought it worked because it was feeding off the notion of, is this in his head from his trauma and the pills? Like they gave us that, is that a MacGuffin or is this what's really going on? So I like that. Is he crazy or is this really happening? I do think they could have explored that more instead of being like, nope, it's real. I personally would like to have had some ambiguity in, is this real? Is this not real? The psychological aspect. I think we could have explored that more as well.
I really would have liked that.
Yeah, because he was doing such a good job. And I don't like how, it didn't say he was cured, but he looked at the pill, put it back, asked Sarah out for coffee, giving the implication that he is better. I don't like that just because you go through a traumatic event, it automatically cures you of whatever's ailing you. Yes, he did burn the thing and beg for forgiveness from his brother and exorcise the demon. And I do get the symbolism, I do. But I just think it was a little too heavy-handed in the end with the point it was trying to get across. I still think something like that happens to you, you're still going to be a fractured person. You're not going to be magically well-adjusted in the span of 5 hours. Even with this scenario, personally, I don't think. I don't know what he was putting on his arm and his head. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is. So I didn't know what that was supposed to represent.
Those were the feeling. They are straps and boxes. They have certain passages from the Torah written inside of them.
Okay.
They're worn especially during the morning hours of prayer.
Oh, okay. I noticed that they had the mezuzos on the wall that they would come in and they would kiss. And I was like, I'm familiar with that. And yarmulkes, I know those.
Yes.
So I know some. Well, I knew about yarmulkes before we met, but I knew what the mezuzah were. I was like, yay! I know something
Yes. They are one to have one, well, the one for the arm for the heart and one for the head for the mind.
Right. I think from him running outside to the end is where the movie kind of started to lose its build. I think it was building and building and building, then it started it was like payoff, resolution. I think we could have had more build with the psychology, with the backstories. I think we could have really, really made something like this really, like he was so good at playing a psychologically tortured soul. I think you could have went deeper into it with him.
I also would have liked to have seen more of the missus. She seemed like a very interesting character.
Like, she's well cast. Like, she looks awesome. But she plays that disheveled, kind of like, Lynn Cohen. And then Dave Davis did a good job. Especially, essentially, since this was not a solo character film, but it was the narrative was his and his alone. So for him to carry the movie like that, can't say enough good things about how he did. I want to see what the director has done, because this was done with style.
Yes, I also liked the way that light and darkness played with each other.
Yeah. Writer and director Keith Thomas. Wow, he had one short before this. This was his first feature-length movie. So, Mr. Thomas, good job on the technical side of things. Not to say that your storytelling was bad. I just think the third act could have been stronger and flesh out that middle, the meaty part that was really the foreboding and the unknown.
Though I do agree with you that it's still a good film. Yes, it is good in its own way.
Yeah. I mean, it's just cool because I think it's probably the first Jewish horror film I've ever seen, or can even think of off the top of my head.
Now that I think about it, yes, it's also the only one that I can think of.
Yeah, so because I wrote in my notes, yes and no, the treading new ground we talked about before with demonic stuff and other religions and belief structures. So when I saw what was going on, I thought this is going to have to be ground that's tread very carefully, because I can see it offending people if done. Like, you have to show respect to the culture and background you were inserting into your horror movie with the subject matter. They went about it in a really good way, where we're taking a Vigil with a Schweimer, and which on paper sounds like a perfect horror concept. And I think he did a good job, the writer-director did a good job of inserting the faith into the horror movie while paying respect to the faith and delivering a horror movie on the back of the faith. So it was like a seesaw.
Yes, and they did it very well. They definitely did their homework on it, especially since I noticed that they frequently use the term mazik, which is a specific kind of demon.
Oh, okay.
He did mention the other word, the Shadim, demons, which is a more general term, that, well, actually, like people, they can be either good or bad. But the maziking, they're specifically feeding off of negativity. So yes, in this particular perspective, there can be such a thing as a good demon.
There you go.
Yes, like people, there are good demons and bad demons. What? Do you think that all demons are evil? Well, shame on you for perpetuating stereotypes against mythical beings.
Let's go through my notes really quickly. I like the idea that the group in the beginning had taken themselves out of the structure of the faith. Like, they were still in faith, like they were still religious, but they took themselves out of almost like the construct.
Yes, they were. How I saw it was that they were still part of the culture, but they were not in the cloistered aspect of it.
Yeah, I knew you'd be able to put that better than I could.
Yes, that since he mentioned Borough Park, and yes, I knew exactly the situation, that they were people that were indeed observant, modern, but they don't really feel that they should have to be detached from the rest of the world like the Amish.
Okay. Yeah, because kind of intimated, obviously everyone had their own reason. Like, obviously the guy lost his faith after his brother died. Kind of intimated that the one guy might have been gay, because when she was talking about the man hitting on her, and he was like, well, I would like that to happen to me, something like that.
Yes, and the fact that no one that seemed to be offended by that was also very refreshing.
Yeah, so I thought it was a way to put, if we're reading the situation correctly, it was a way to insert our point of view without being like, this is the gay character, look how gay he is, and he's also Jewish. Like, it fit in the narrative without being.
Yes, no need to put in a stereotype and then simply put a hat on him.
Exactly, yeah, and they do that far too often. Not just with so many different groups. So it's nice to see it just slid in there in a very natural way. Like, that's how friendships work. That's like if you were friends with me and I'm your gay friend, then maybe we should rethink the friendship. Because it's fine, but I think I have more to offer than just my preference in who I choose to love. Just my take.
That there is more to yourself. You actually have a personality that doesn't have to do with sexuality necessarily.
Right. So I don't know if I'm gonna be a Schweimer and I hear like bang, 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 bang upstairs. I don't think I'm gonna sit with my back to the body and put in earbuds. I don't think so.
Yes, I would think that, does this seem to be the least bit worrisome? Perhaps maybe you shouldn't ignore it. Perhaps you should see if there's something going on in this house.
Yeah, because then it made me wonder, like, what made the other Schweimer leave? And how long did that person last? And then, why didn't it make the other person crawl back? But then the wife said that, you've been in the house too long. So I'm like, okay. But it still made me wonder what happened with the other one.
Maybe he or she found out what was in the basement.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. And then I appreciated that we did not get a cheap ending, or what has been coined the Bagul ending.
What's that?
Like, as it's panning out.
Relying too much on jump scares, basically.
Or if he was like, exercising the body, and then like, someone rises behind him, credits. Like, it kind of had like an It Follows vibe with the end, because you saw something walk out of the house and then start walking towards the camera, which I assumed it was the rabbi.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think that it was. Either him or one of the other men that were there.
But it just kind of had that, like, because it lingered on it a while after Yakov had already exited frame. It just lingered a little long on that figure. And I'm like, maybe it's the thing leaving to find someone else. But it's probably just a rabbi. But it's cool to think about like that. Overall, yeah, I would say it's a solid B+. I think we give it a B+.
So would I. That is an excellent grade for it.
Grade. Like, I think if the technical stuff wasn't so strong, if the main actor was not just delivering through the first 2/3 of the movie. He delivered all the way through, but he ran out of stuff to really sink his teeth into in that last act. In my opinion, at least. But him playing the tortured, broken soul, phenomenal job. Like, he did such a good job. And then, yeah, as I said, I just would like to have seen more of the stuff that I mentioned earlier. More psychological. And maybe not wrap it up with a little bow at the end, like they did.
I did like it that he was actually talking with, and sort of having a psychological dialogue with the Mazik, while on the telephone, thinking that it was the doctor. And, it's asking him, what do you think that is? What do you see?
Yeah, good call. Yeah.
I definitely liked that.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah. Almost like how deep do I have my claws into you? Describe to me how you see me. Yeah.
Especially since in the tradition, it's said that a demonic entity will only have as much power over oneself as one will let it.
Right.
For example, someone with a phobia of something. Mm-hmm. How much will this thing have over you? However much you'll let it. Again, with the inner demonic things inside of oneself, the turmoil. Mm-hmm. If you're going to let your trauma and other things like that take over your life, then it's going to, because you're going to let it. You're giving it power.
Yeah, yeah. In Yakov's case, he was so broken that he was just submissive.
Indeed.
Yeah, so he was easy prey. All right, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Is there anything that you'd like to add?
I think I said everything. What about you, since this was more a personal...
It was refreshing.
Yeah, agreed.
It was refreshing, and it actually did it well. Well, I thought that it could have been done better, but still, on its own, it's still good. At least it wasn't either mediocre or outright bad.
Yeah, it wasn't like Jewish to the Nun. It wasn't like, oh my god. And I would have said we could have lost a couple of the jump scares. They weren't needed. But I know it was a Blumhouse thing, so I knew going into it that... Because usually we watch with headphones on. I take the headphones off and I move them away from my ears because it's the sound that makes me jump. We didn't have headphones. We tried to make it work for that reason. So if I'm doing this, I'm like plugging one side of my ear, trying to dampen the sound just a little bit. But they still, the two main ones still got me. But yeah, overall, not bad.
Thank you for showing me this.
You asked for it. What do you mean? This is your choice. This was your birthday movie.
I'm glad that we were both able to see this together and at this time.
Yeah. And with the subject matter and all that stuff, so yeah.
Yes, and at a time at around midnight, so excellent timing for horror.
Well, that's going to wrap up this video. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I'll simply say thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye. Were there any other questions that you had that you needed some explaining of?
No, I think it was pretty cut and dry as far as that goes.
The black and white film especially put the metaphysical things into perspective. For if anyone doesn't know what this is the explanation. Well, the official explanation.
Yeah, I guess we could have said that they did a... I mean, it's kind of cliche, but they did a decent job of the exposition. Like, just giving those of us who have no idea what this is, like, we get the concept, obviously. It's, possession, demonic stuff. But with just through the lens of the Jewish faith, those of us who aren't Jewish, or don't know a lot about it, or might not know about this in particular, they did a good job of...
filtering in some context.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, the film strip playing in the basement, and then the lady sees you in the, it's a little cliche, but at the same time, we were still embroiled in this. Is this real? Or is this all in his head? So that worked. Like her saying, turn around.
Yes,
it made sense because...
It could have. Some people do see and hear things and think that they heard or saw something, but didn't.
And like when he called the doctor, he even said, he's like, I'm seeing things and hearing things again. So, he has a history of it.
Yes.
Which furthers, okay, is this in his head? Is this event like triggering his trauma? Or is this really happening?
Indeed, I especially liked that ambiguity, though I would have liked even more ambiguity.
Exactly, that's exactly, yeah. I just think you could have stretched out that meaty middle part and then really just wrapped it up in a this movie needed a more esoteric ending, I think. Keep the audience guessing, keep them wondering. Like if they had just kind of erased the last act, stretch out the psychological. So even at the end, we don't know what really happened.
Yes,
like have it play out similarly, but just make it more around his psychology, like they were doing.
Like the glass.
Yeah, exactly. And then when it gets to the end, we still don't know. Like this needed more doubt, I think. Like it did not need it. You could have had the evil Bagul character without leaning so much into it in the third act, I think. Because the performance and the writing and the acting was so strong. I think it could have carried the movie into that context up till the end. And then it would have made, give us that ambiguous ending. Like with this feeling of dread and unease and unknown, we get to the end, it's over. We're like, okay, creepy. What just happened? Is he crazy? Is this real? Look at all these questions we have all this stuff to mull over now, and now we don't.
Yes, so when we're saying that it could have been better, that's it. That's what we mean.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's, as far as any of the questions, no, it was all pretty straightforward. Like, I've learned a lot from being with you, so, I think if we weren't together, I'd be like, what is most of this stuff? But I've been inquisitive in the years we've had together because I've always been curious about other faith or faith in general. And I'm very, I just ask questions. So, yeah. If I hadn't, then yeah, I probably would be like, what?
Then much of it may or may not have made sense.
I would have gotten the gist. But I wouldn't have known about, like, the thing on the wall, I mean, the only thing I really didn't know was the thing they wrapped around, and I didn't get that. No one invited you to the video.
So I suppose what you are seeing with him doing that, basically it would be analogous to someone, for example, well, to make an example
like
of
a rosary?
like the Exorcist. Yes,
yeah,
that's
like a rosary.
going at that. Basically, think of someone who's using that and is using prayer to give oneself some perseverance, a sense to try to give oneself some courage if they are, for whatever, in doubt, since, well, basically, religion is something that people who doubt can cling on to if they have nothing else to cling on to.
That is very true. Any other questions or thoughts or anything you wanted to bring up?
No.
Okay.